Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff. He's Chad. Hit that thumbs up button, like the channel, get the subscriptions, do all those things. We're talking college football going into the weekend. Longhorns have a weekend off. We get to soak in a number of games. Chad, I've got hot takes. I'm curious if you've got any going in. Everybody can jump into the Specs chat. Chat them up. What up, Tyler?
Look at Tyler. He's trying to hook him in College Station. That's a tough thing to do in College Station.
There's an interesting game going in College Station tomorrow that we'll get to today. And look, Chad, I told you, I'm kind of pumped to do today's show because you and I don't get to do many college football weekends where the day before a really big weekend, we're not hyper-focused on whatever Texas is doing. And there are weeks when the Texas game, and look, a week ago would have been a good example if there were a bunch of games to care about. You know, Sam Houston State, we'll get our way through that one. But it would have been a week. It would have been nice to have some other things around it. It didn't. It felt like a lost opportunity of sorts. This weekend, we've got a lot of really big games. And I think some college football earth-shattering things may happen. And I'm kind of pumped up to be able to just talk a little bit about this. May not be the most memorable YouTube show that we do of all time, but I may have more fun talking college football today than we normally get to have.
I think it's a great weekend for Texas fans to sit back and watch the madness. It's a great weekend not to be a part of it because you get to look at things from a distance before you get into SEC play. And also this weekend, Catch, in games that matter, Texas fans can watch 6 future opponents, and then they can also find 6 teams they may face in either Atlanta or in the playoffs. There's a lot out there to check out. If you love Burnt Orange, there's a whole lot to peek in on to figure out kind of where you kind of feel like you might know where you sit. This weekend, we're going to start to learn some truth. September 27th has been circled on my calendar a long time, Catch, because the truth starts to be revealed this weekend.
I think one of my big hot takes to get us started begins in Athens.
Okay.
I think everybody needs to keep an eye on Alabama. I don't know what the spread in that game is, but this is a Georgia team that we've already seen take a standing 8 count earlier this season. Mm-hmm. And to its credit, got up off the canvas.
Georgia by 2.5, by the way.
Which is so on a neutral field, that means that's a pick 'em.
Correct.
And I like Alabama to win the game this weekend.
Do you? Okay.
I think you can't really be desperate until you're desperate. And I think we're going to see him desperate. One of the things that gets we had Brian on yesterday and he referenced last year's game and it was a wild game.
It was.
But what gets forgotten, that's the most Texas thing I've done in a long time, Chad.
I had a granddad that couldn't forgetting. Sometimes he'd forgetting.
I forget all the time. I call it forgetting. Alabama dominated Georgia for basically 30 minutes in that game in a humiliating kind of way. And then it really spoke to Georgia that they came back and turned what looked like was going to be a humiliating outcome into, well, that was a great game. I don't know. I just got I don't buy Gunnar Stockton. Georgia can't really run the ball super. The pieces are there, I think, for an upset to occur. And I think everybody goes into this weekend assuming Georgia wins at home. And I think a Georgia loss changes the dynamics of the entire season. And when I look at this weekend and I'm trying to figure out zig, 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 where's the freaking zag in a weekend where we're getting top 10 matchups against each other, ranked matchups against each other? It feels like my zag is Alabama in Athens with a program, Kellen DeBoer saving win. If it doesn't happen, nobody should be shocked. But I think this is going to be a fourth quarter, last minute. This will be a game that Texas fans, I think, should keep an eye on.
Oh, yeah.
We may see a lot of games the rest of the season that Texas plays in that might look like a facsimile of what I think takes place in Athens this weekend, which is, guys, I don't know if we've all looked around and noticed, there are not a lot of superstars on the offensive side of the ball in college football right now. So much so that John Mateer, bless his heart, Heisman favorite coming into this week, when, with all due respect to John Mateer and the guy who asked some questions about what the parallels between him and Johnny Football are, there is no Johnny Football. There is no Joe Burrow. There isn't. I don't even know who the Jalen Milroe of the sport is right now. This is a sport where even in the SEC, we've seen guys like Nussmeier and Sellers not quite take those super steps. On one side of our mouths, Sellers might be the number one pick in the draft. On the other side of our mouths, South Carolina's already got 2 losses, and I don't know what they are, but they're not a team to be feared. And I just feel like all across college football, I think my hot take will be we're going to look around the sport and say that everybody's got average quarterback play after this weekend except for one team. I think we're going to come out of this weekend singing Oregon's praises, Dante Moore's praises. My other hot take is he emerges from this weekend as the Heisman favorite.
If you guys have some hot takes, let us have them in the chat. You can send us a super chat. It'll go right to the top of the list. For me this weekend, Catch, there's a lot about style and coaching because there's a couple guys, and you've already mentioned both teams. I think what Kalen DeBoer is going to try to do on the road and bringing his style into the SEC, that's fun to watch, but also what Dan Lanning is going to try to do in State College. I was a little surprised to see Bama's passing offense is 9th in the country. This is the week where after 4 games, where I start to look at the numbers just to see what we're looking at. They're 9th in the country throwing the ball, Catch. Georgia's 82nd defending it. Now, a lot of that is Knoxville. I get it. But Knoxville showed us that the Georgia backside of that defense can be had. So in 2 different games this weekend, the one in Athens and the one in College Station, I think it's a clash of styles. One team wants to throw it. One team wants to run it. And in Athens, Georgia needs that game to be about running the ball. They need it to be about nasty, sloppy football. They'll pray for rain. Bama needs it to be pretty. They need Ryan Williams to be the story of that game. They need to throw the football a ton. So watching Kalen DeBoer say to everybody, not only am I saving this job, I'm going to bring my style. I'm going to chunk the ball all over the place. I'm going to beat y'all up like Sark used to beat y'all up. You know, Sark, the guy I've beaten a couple times in big games. I'm going to show you what it's about with Bama talent. We're going to go beat the dogs and set the stand. If they do it, Catch, if you're right, this does change everybody's brain in the SEC. Bama will have to get your attention if they do it this weekend, but they got to do it throwing. So it's a fascinating clash of styles when those two get together.
Yeah, I mean, there's just – I look across the state of college football. The 3 big games really are LSU, Ole Miss, obviously Oregon and Penn State, mix in Alabama, Georgia. I mean, Alabama's 17th, but everybody else is –
yeah, those are 3 of the 4. Those are 3 of the 4 ranked matchups. The USC Illinois is technically a ranked matchup, but you're right. Those are the 3 blinking lights this week.
But it makes up, those are 4 top 10 teams. And one of the things that and we've talked about this all week long, it's clouded everybody's impressions of what Texas is because we saw them play and fail against a real legitimate opponent. And forget about whether or not there's need to give them grace for performances after that, or maybe we should make forget about everything else that's happened. We saw Texas play Ohio State. We haven't seen most of the other teams really engage. We're going to learn a little bit about that game in the Big Ten or the Oregon Penn State game.
Yeah,
I have no idea really what I'm going to get.
Yeah, you're not learning a little in that game. That one's got a ton of truth. Neither has played anybody.
These are two teams that are ranked ahead of Texas. They haven't had that thing that Texas has had, that we know a little bit about who really Texas is because we've seen that test. It's not theory, right? We're not, well, what will it look like when Texas does? We've got a sample size. It's a small one, but it's better than nothing. And I kind of feel like, and then the next thing is we know that when Texas gets its next real test, and there's a little bit of that in Gainesville, at least for one side of the ball. Mm-hmm. What will it look like when the sample size expands? Alabama and Georgia are perfect examples of, we've seen both of those teams take standing 8 counts. And in the case of one team, they didn't get up from it. Yeah. In the case of the other, that they did. But that doesn't mean that they won't ever take standing 8 counts again. And we might see it this weekend. And look, what if Alabama throws the ball all over Georgia this weekend? What will it tell us? It will frame the way we walk out of that first game thinking, well, still got to give Georgia benefit of the doubt. Yes, Tennessee barbecued them a little bit, but they're Georgia, and that could be a one-off.
Go ahead.
I just say what happens twice, then you don't get to just say it's a one-off, right? We believe us. We've seen a lot of Texas defenses over the years where it's like, they gave up like 300 plus yards in that game. Wonder if that's a problem. And then when it happens again, there's usually been no magical cures for, hey, we're 100th in the country, week 6. Is that a problem? At some point, yep. And I think this weekend identifies for some teams some areas of trouble that Texas has properly had identified. And I just think there's going to be a weekend where we come out going, God, the sport is flawed. And you know what? Maybe a 9-3 team does get in as an at-large when it's all said and done. Maybe we're used to living in a world where there are 3 or 4 teams that clearly look like the best teams. And then in the 4-team playoff, it was about, well, who gets the last spot? Yeah. And it might be that Georgia isn't as separated from the pack. And we know that the talent level has come down. We do know that. We do know that it's not, they're still the most talented roster in college football, but they don't have quite the advantage that we've seen them have. They really don't have much of an advantage at all over Alabama in this game from a talent standpoint. That is a credit to what Nick Saban and to some degree Kellen DeBoer has been able to hold together coming into this matchup. And then Georgia's Georgia. So I can't wait, man. Tomorrow, game by game, there's a lot of really interesting things. And it'll just be nice to be able to watch the entire slate, to be able to even look back on the show that we do today. Tomorrow, because we do that in Texas games all the time. We death by analysis to some extent. So when you get into the game and it starts to unfold one way or the other, we haven't get to do that much in college football. I hope Texas fans, one of two things, either don't watch any college football at all tomorrow and go be with your family, or overdose. Overdose. Like, really, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to overdose. We got a bunch of kids in the house this week. I got like 4 kids in the house tonight. I'm going to watch me some college football. And you know what? Maybe I'll be a good dad on Sunday. But tomorrow, I am going to over-inebriate myself with some Big Ten, with a little SEC. I'm going to dabble in some Auburn A&M. You know why? Because I'm just going to learn a little bit more about both of those two teams. And I need to know a little bit more about what the hell A&M is. And you know what? We saw Auburn last week against Oklahoma. So all of this is just a continuing education of what the hell do we actually have on our hands with this slate of top 10, 15 teams that currently exist.
Talking college football in the big weekend. Best way to watch it and enjoy it is with the help of AV Consultations.
Hi, this is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations, and we'd like to take a moment to thank all of our clients for making the last 37 years both fun and fruitful. If you haven't yet, I'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We come to you. So just relax, hug your kids, and smile. We handle all the work. Just give us a call at 255-8678 or online at avconsultations.com.
You stepping out into love. Okay. Shout out to AV Consultations. Bowling alleys. I never mentioned bowling alleys. If you're building a bowling alley, they can put a screen right up above the bowling alley and everything. Speaking of big screens, here's the one we watch games on. Make your plans for the 2:30 kick 1 week from tomorrow. Hell, if you want to go out this weekend, you can. But if you want to come out and watch the Florida game with us, that's a week from Saturday, 2:30 kick, 183 in Anderson Mill. Come see us at TCH Social Austin. That is one of 6 locations around the state. You go to any of the 6. Mention Orange Bloods. When you check in, you're getting a month of free club membership and 2 hours of free poker play. And don't forget about online poker at hijackpoker.com all across the great state of Texas. Go get some online poker going. Let me scan here, make sure we're not missing any super chats. I don't think we are. Talking about the big weekend of college football coming up. It's all over the place. What's up, Catch?
I mean, give me a hot take. I've given you a couple. I'm taking Bama outright, and I think Mr. Moore at Oregon literally emerges this weekend as the Heisman favorite, and I think will remain one of the top 2 or 3 guys the entire way. Like I think Moore is going to be a Heisman finalist, and I think that really kicks off this weekend. Come on, hit me with something.
Yeah, I mean, I like Oregon as well, and I think it's about the statement Dan Lanning's going to make in that game. The hot take that no one would expect, because we all focus on the flash and the uniforms and everything, that's a running football team. They are 10th in the country, if you believe in the numbers, running the ball. Now the Ducks have to show us they can go to Happy Valley and be a Big Ten team. You want to just join the conference? Or do you want to play Big Ten football? Dan Lanning wants to play Big Ten football. He has said it very clearly. He's adjusted his offensive line because of it. Catch, their leading running back averages 6.7 a carry. His name is Jaden Lamar. Does anybody know his name after Saturday night? I don't know. I think they will. And I agree with you that Moore is going to make a name for himself. And I think DeCorian Moore is going to have a big game as well. Oregon has 152 carries so far this year and 95 pass attempts. They've clearly shown us what they are. They're going to run the football. And I'm going to say they're going to go in there and they're going to give another one of those games to James Franklin. This is one of those massive games that they're going to talk about all the top 10 matchups, Catch, that James Franklin doesn't win. 4-20, I think, is the overall mark. But I looked a little more specifically. This is only the second time since James Franklin got to Penn State that he hosts a top 10 and he's the higher seeded team. Twice. That's it. It happened last year when he hosted Ohio State and they lost. So he's 0-1 in games like that. He is the higher seeded team. I think he's favored to win it. Let me double check. I'm assuming they're favored, right? Yes. 3.5. And I'm going to say James Franklin fails again. I don't know that that's a hot take, but I think Oregon's going to make their point.
I think the story of that game for me is that Penn State a year ago was able to turn potential track meets into rock fights. Now, they didn't win them all, clearly.
Right.
But there were some games where, I guess it would have been Ohio State last year, right? Where
it was like 20-13 was the final.
But it felt like if Penn State's football is about keeping it within a place where if one play goes either way, you can win that game.
Yeah, and Oregon has to show they're comfortable in that game. The closest Oregon's been is 20 this year, but they've played garbage.
But I think this game plays out. You're talking about that would be how it would tax Oregon. I think the story in this game, and where I don't believe in Drew Aller and I don't believe in Penn State, is I think that game's got to be played below 20 if Penn State's going to win that game.
Yeah. Do you think Oregon's going to like boat race them, like go in there and really put numbers on them and beat them by like 17? Or
I think Oregon wins by 10 plus.
Okay.
Because I think Oregon starts fast. Oregon scoring 14 first quarter points makes Penn State play stylistically the entire team, I think, in a way that makes them uncomfortable.
Right. And you're asking Drew Aller to make big throws and all that kind of stuff.
You're asking Drew Aller to be the guy that everybody talks about him becoming one day, but at which point he has never been in his entire life.
Yeah. That matchup's interesting if the numbers matter. 57 throwing the ball for Penn State, and Oregon's pass defense is 9th in the country. Again, neither have played anybody. If the numbers don't matter for any matchup, it's probably that one because they both played nothing.
Keep in mind, when we talk about the state of those rosters, Oregon has a much deeper, more talented roster. And this is where going into the portal and bringing in like 5 or 6 guys that change your season matter. And we'll see that at Oregon at wide receiver. We'll see it in terms of, Oregon has a number of big-time freshmen that came in from that recruiting class. You remember, you mentioned Decorian Moore. But they've got transfers up and down, offensive line, defensive line, secondary. They made a point to go out and get the kind of guys that, quite frankly, we've talked about Texas didn't do this year, and there are reasons for that. But Oregon, unlike Texas, doesn't have and didn't have a baked-in roster that it had to worry about taking care of quite the way Texas did. They added to it, though, and I think those two teams in the rankings look the same. I don't think they are. Now, if Penn State's able to win that game, it's because it's older talent. They don't have the volume of difference makers in terms of talent that I think Oregon has on paper. But we could do a draft of the top 5 players on each team going, we could do a draft and Penn State might have 3 or 4 of the first 5 guys picked. Yeah. So now we would extend that to 20. That's where Oregon really starts to come in, and you get to the end of 20 and maybe 15 of the guys you picked are from Oregon. But the biggest difference makers could be at Penn State, and that's their more than fighting chance.
Yeah, Drew Aller has got to make some plays in that game. 6:30 tomorrow night. It's the Penn State game and the Georgia game at the same exact time. So you're flipping back and forth between ABC and NBC on that one. I see these super chats coming in. Let's grab them here. Craig said $5. Catch any inside info on how long John Mateer is out?
Look, that story comes out, and then sources like national reputable sources who are getting this information from the agent. Let's just talk about how these stories break. Mm-hmm. John Mateer is a super high-profile guy. When that story broke, that was not Oklahoma breaking that story. Any more so than when Quinn Ewers got hurt last year. Ask yourself this. How'd that story unfold? You knew a year ago that if anything breaks Quinn Ewers-wise on the local side, Anwar was going to have that story. But we knew that on the national side that you had, who was the guy? Sorry.
Who?
Pete Thamel was like, that like Anwar knew anytime anything happened to Quinn Ewers that Pete Thamel was the competition. And if it's a Sunday and it's like trying to get a legitimacy on a timeline of a report and stuff like that, Thamel would be the guy to have to beat. Well, who was the guy reporting on Mateer earlier in the week? It's Thamel, right? The original timeline is it's a month, 4 to 5 weeks. That's the injury. Now, what happened with the Ewers situation after Anwar and Pete Thamel would break the original timeline on what the injury was? What we know is that the timeline is the timeline. But what happens is we hear what an injury is. We hear what representation of the player and the doctors are telling the player the timeline is, right? That's what gets reported. As soon as that gets reported with every major, and I'm using Quinn Ewers as the example. What then happens? Well, coach comes out. Well, he's not even out this week. We're going to list him as questionable because It's all about competitiveness, and it's all about trying to make the other team not know what's going on. And so then what do? We play this game where week by week, we're waiting to see how. And most of the time, the guy's not even practicing. And they know that. And the doctor knows it. But Oklahoma will not want to concede any competitive advantage at all. So we're going to go into the Texas-Oklahoma game, and there will almost certainly be a shroud of mystery. There's talk now, well, maybe it's just a 2 or 3 week injury. Well, if you were to play in the Texas game from the moment the injury was announced, 18 days. Now, that game is in 15 days? Yeah. So you just got to ask yourself, what does your brain tell you? We know what the injury is. We know that if he was in the NFL, what the injury would be. We know what, based on the information that was almost 1,000% coming from his agency, the people that are responsible for representing him, that it was a month-long injury. The school and sources close to the school, maybe it can be a 2 or 3 week injury. Why would they say that? Well, in 3 weeks, they play Texas. So any inside information? Not really. I cannot tell you how his fucking hand is healing a day after surgery or 2 days after surgery. Like, they don't know. All I can tell you is this is how the game is played. This is the timeline that exists. Listen to the first thing that you hear. The first thing that you heard was not willy-nilly grasping at straws prognostications. The agency told reporters, the best in the business, what the doctors told them so that they could report on it accurately. What happens next is the game of, like the coconut shell game of information that the schools play. And look, do I know that John Mateer is not playing against Texas? I do not. Do I know that in order for John Mateer to play against Texas, the recovery time for which he would need to come back from is cut nearly in half from what the expectations are upon diagnosis of the injury? Yes. Is John Mateer and his people going to let him risk anything? The rest is Oklahoma going to risk setting themselves? No. They're going to get that kid back as soon as they can. But my inside information is common sense information. I don't know anything that somebody with a library card couldn't go get. All I'm telling you is we have lived experience in this. It's always the original timeline. Every time Quinn Ewers got hurt in each of the last couple of years, the timeline was the timeline. And what did we do? We played this game of charades every week that followed, where he's listed as questionable, and is he doing anything? And no, he's not, but we got to wait and see. Is he doing anything by Friday? Oh, didn't do anything by Friday. You know, we're going to do that. That kid's not practicing next week, which means we're going to get to Monday, and he's going to have like 10 days or 11 days since the injury, since the surgery. Is he going to be ready? They're telling us it's a month, and in order for him to be ready to play against Texas, presumably that needs to be cut down to like 12 or 13 days.
Couple of super chats to grab before we get there. Sandman, not buying it at all. If you don't think Mateer will play against Texas, I've got oceanfront property in Arizona you can have. Good George Strait song, kids, if you haven't heard that one. Along the same lines.
He's playing against Texas.
Along the same lines.
It does not pass the common sense test. Because if a 2 or 3 week timeline was legitimately on the board, that set of expectations would have been planted by the agent and his representatives. They have planted the real parameters that exist. Do you know why? Because they know their athlete will get hung out to dry by the school, who will make the player, it'll look like the player's fault. Oh, John Mateer is not ready to play against Texas, pussy. Well, no. No. A month.
Yeah. All right. This
Longhorns. And that's what the schools do. Think about how Xavier Worthy got hung out to dry with a broken hand. These schools will do anything to make it look for competitive reasons like there's doubt in these situations. And all it does is it makes it look like the kid has a choice. Like the week of the Texas OU game, as if doctors haven't said it's not good. This is not the timeline that we've told you that you need. There being a game 18 days away doesn't change the fact you need a month. If we thought 18 days would work, we'd have said you need 18 days. We know you want 18 days. It's not an 18-day injury. So I do not think Oklahoma will risk that kid's health and the rest of their season in order for him to cut short his rehab by a couple of weeks. I just don't.
Football edits for 5. Would you rather face a 70 to 80% healed Mateer or 100% Hawkins? Even if Mateer can play, probably won't be 100%.
What does it mean to play a guy that's had a broken bone in his throwing hand?
Yeah, that's such a weird. I don't know if you went back and watched it, Catch. Did you ever see the moment it happened? Because I never did.
No.
I rewatched the whole damn thing. I watched him like high-fiving guys. I never saw I didn't see that. I didn't see the wince. I didn't see hand on helmet. I didn't see any of that stuff. It was weird.
No.
At the end of the game, he's doing interviews his normal, that he's, and I didn't think a thing about it.
I mean, again, if upon everything related to that story, if the thought was, well, he can be ready for Texas and OU, they just would have said that.
Right. They hope, they are confident he could be just like it would feel more like Lagway. Because the Lagway thing from the very beginning of it has felt like, here's the deal, and they're confident he can be ready for Texas.
The most accurate thing is always the first thing. Because what happens after the first thing is everybody starts asking, well, are there examples of it not taking a month? Give me some examples. And then it's like, oh, well, there was a situation in the NFL where a guy had surgery and he played 30 minutes later. It's like, there you go. There you go. He's playing.
There it is.
And it's like, well, no, I'm just telling you. That original information came from the people who had the best information and have it in their best interest to set the most accurate set of expectations possible. Because they know as soon as that happens, there will be nothing but misinformation campaigns designed to muddy the water. Yeah. And it's not in that player's best interest to, what happens next isn't in the player's best interest. It's in the name of competitive advantage or creating a disadvantage. It's not about like, well, if you know a guy's going to play, like, wouldn't it just be better to not hang the guy out there and make people ask him all week long, are you going to play when he's not going to play? And it's like, well, no, that kid's feelings don't matter. We could maybe confuse the opposing coach, like Texas. Maybe we've made Texas spend 15 minutes preparing for what might happen if Lagway doesn't play.
Hey, trust me, if there's one offense right now that needs everything they can get, it's the Florida offense. They're going to use every trick they can. If they can get Texas thinking that maybe Danny Werfel is going to take a couple snaps, they'll do that too.
Muschamp thing where both quarterbacks are on the field for the first play.
Yep, do that. Do it as much as you can. Send everybody out there. If Spurrier's in the house, send everybody out there if you can. I see that super chat. We will get to it. A quarterback super chat for Catch. Before that, Lisa's going to play some beer pong.
Texans know for selection and lower prices, it all starts at Specs. Shop Specs! With all your favorites on tap, you'll bring home the win. Boots on, drinks up. The fun starts here. Shop Specs!
All right. Clay Davis, not Clay Travis. Clay Davis for $5. Catch, more surprising, Arch or your boy Klubnik's meh start to the season?
Probably no. Not no, but they're both surprising. Yeah. So more surprising? maybe the Arch start. If you tell me before the season, like, look, hey, FYI, what we're going to end up learning is that the end of Klubnik's season is a little bit of a mirage. Now, that would be surprising, but intellectually, I think I could process that, like, it's just he maybe just not as good as we think or you think, Catch. Like, that's happened before, so I can rationalize that. Everything that happened about Arch in Ohio, I kind of saw coming. You got to remember, I thought Texas would win that game, but the style of the game and kind of the way that, like, I had that as a 17-13 kind of a game, knowing that it could have been a coin flip type game. So that part didn't surprise me, but you couldn't have told me that we would get through the San Jose State and the UTEP performances and that it would look like he's not a major college football player because he's throwing ground balls to his receiver and his mechanics are awful. Like, things that, if it had just said, Catch, would it be more surprising Klubnik's Met start or us talking about Arch's throwing mechanics more than we did Quinn Ewers' throwing mechanics? That part would have been more surprising, even if both are surprising.
Clay, appreciate the super chat. That cleans us out of super chats. If you guys want to throw,
I've answered that shit.
Give the wire answer.
Right, that was Clay Davis.
Oh wow, is that what that character's name was?
I'm pretty sure Clay Davis is she.
Oh, okay. Then if the chatter's paying homage, I apologize.
I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing the character Clay Davis isn't the only Clay Davis in the world.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic name, but maybe it is a little homage there.
Clay, let us know. Are you paying homage to the Wire, or do you just occasionally get hit with like he's like, I hate that show. It's like Michael Bolton in Office Space. Yeah. Why should I have to change my name? He's the one who sucks.
He's the one who sucks. I got to think any Clay Davis in the world still loves The Wire. I've never met anyone.
We don't know that, though. So, Clay, let us know. I'm a real person. There it is, Clay. Clay says I'm a real person. That's my name. Haven't heard that in a while. Well, Clay Davis. You know what doesn't often get heard? Random 80s Richard Pryor, Gene Hackman stir crazy references. And yet, if you hang around this show, you're going to get it a couple times a month.
There's only like one actor I can think of that's in The Wire that when I see him, I don't think of The Wire always immediately, and it's Idris Elba. Other than that, I think of all of them. Like, I can't see any of those people, especially the Clay Davis guy, without thinking of The Wire. It's the way it is.
That's funny. Avon, I know that character for so many other roles.
See, I think of him Michael. What's his name? Michael K. Williams.
No.
That played Omar, right?
Yes.
That was Michael K. Williams. Like, I can't see him without thinking of that role. The guy that played Avon Barksdale. I can't see him without thinking of the role. Like,
that's played by Wood Harris.
Yeah, there's just
and that guy. I can't help it. It's because of how old I am. But Wood Harris for me is above the rim. I can't help it.
Like, now, wait a minute.
I know Wood Harris from being above the rim from when I was in high school, and no matter what else he's in, and he's been in a million things. Obviously, he's been in movies as
wasn't he also Bertier's guy in Remember the Titans?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I think of him. Okay, there's two of them because I do think of that immediately. I can't when I see him, I do think of Remember the Titans first.
So he's in those are a couple of huge movies. And again, recently, an older version of him is in the Creed movies. He's Duke's son.
Oh, wow. I have not seen anything past the first Creed movie.
Well, he's in the first Creed movies, in the Creed second movies, in the Creed third movie. He's Adonis' trainer.
I forgot he was in Creed. If y'all want to throw us a super chat, feel free. One more of our great partners to thank here. And it's an idea for the weekend. You want to go hang out on an off weekend? Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Might be a good idea. Weather's starting to turn just a little bit. It's the Texas version, but it is starting to turn a little bit. There's your QR code. Notice there are fans at one of those outdoor seating areas, and there's that incredible view at the other. And of course, you got the tasting room where we did the show when we were out there. Go on out, have a tasting, have some of the great cocktails, have some of that great Crimson Creek Smokehouse barbecue, and tell them we sent you here at Orange Bloods Live. Might be a good way to spend your off weekend out at the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. All right, Catch, anything else jumping out at you for this weekend coming up? Because there's a lot to it. We hit Bama, Georgia. You talked about Oregon, Penn State. Haven't really talked about the game in Oxford. What are you thinking on LSU Ole Miss?
I have no idea. It falls into the category of things I don't know what Ole Miss is. So I kind of feel like I know what LSU is, and they're okay. They're good. What is Ole Miss? I have no idea. This isn't Jackson Dart Ole Miss. This is a new version of what Lane Kiffin does, and we don't have a lived experience yet. This is one of those games where I'm learning something. I do an SEC Power Poll on Orange Bloods every week, and every week Ole Miss has been a team where I'm just not quite sure what the hell I'm supposed to do with.
Yeah, so this is to me like if you have two kids, one of them every time you leave wrecks your car, one of them every time you leave throws a party and wrecks your house. It's like they're playing each other this weekend. Who can you trust? And I feel dumb. This is not a hot take. This is a, oh my God, am I really about to say this out loud take? I'm trusting Lane to get this done, Catch. I'm picking Ole Miss to win the game.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
And here's why. Because I believe in this dual threat backup quarterback. I've peeked in on both of these teams. Trinidad Chambliss, not only one of the coolest names I've ever said out loud, but I like the dual threat part of it. And the key to this game for me is running the football. 25th in the country for Ole Miss. Chambliss gives them a little bit of that. He's got moxie, Catch. He is a multiple national champion at either D2 or D3. He went to Ferris State, and he doesn't look scared for a minute. Now he's got to face this LSU defense. We'll see. They're 10 in the country against the run. But here's your matchup, Catch. The weakness versus weakness. LSU is 111th running the ball. Ole Miss is 120th stopping it. That may be your matchup of the whole ball game. You know the name Caden Durham, and I do too. And anybody who kind of covers recruiting and knows recruiting knows the name Caden Durham. You know who doesn't know the name Caden Durham? College football fans. He's got 4.1 a carry. He's not really been a factor. That guy, if he can't get going against this Ole Miss rush defense, then I don't think he can get going. I'm really focused on that part of this game. Who can run the ball effectively? I'm going to lean Ole Miss. I'm going to say it's a close, hard-fought SEC fight, but I'll take the home team like just barely. But I feel silly doing it. But I don't know who I can trust here. So I'm going with Lane. I'm going with Chambliss. But I don't feel great. I'm not putting any of my money on that pick. I'm just saying it out loud. I don't know.
I mean, you talking all that blah, 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 blah did not change the fact that I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to. I don't know. Like, so
it is the best show.
The benefit of the doubt at a time when I am shoulder shrugging and saying, I have no idea.
Best show of the weekend easily. If I can only watch one game, it's that one. The drama, the fan bases, those two coaches. This is the kind of game Brian Kelly loses, and this is the kind of game Lane Kiffin loses. And they are button heads in Oxford, 2:30 kick on ABC. If you don't care about that one, you just like boring football. That is a hell of a story waiting to happen one way or the other. I cannot wait to see what that looks like. It's going to be a wild-ass game.
I'm weirdly interested in a couple of games tonight.
Really?
And I hate to be college football degenerate guy, but keep an eye on Florida State and Virginia. Okay. I have no reason to believe that we should just give Florida State benefit of the doubt against teams with a pulse on the road. It's a
they
Virginia.
Just stepped on it. Yeah, that's a good one. They just stepped on a nobody. And we got Florida State, Miami next week. So it's kind of a primer for that.
But it's more that Virginia's not a total dog. You know, like a lot of times you don't necessarily need to be great to make a game like this competitive, you just need to be capable. Well,
3-1.
They're 3-1. It's a 41-point win over, I think, Coastal Carolina. It's a 40-point win essentially over William and Mary. That's a 28-point win over Stanford. Like they're not incapable. I don't know that they're good, but if Florida State has a chin a Friday game on the road, conference play sometimes can be tricky. And look, I've seen better Florida State teams than this one go to Virginia and lose on a non-Saturday. I remember I think they were number 1 at one point and lost to Virginia on a Thursday night game. So, and TCU, Arizona State just could be fun. It will be irrelevant. I'm not telling you that you need to watch it for the playoffs. I'm just saying if you want to if you're bored and you want to get a little prize picks action going, that game could be funny until about 11:30, right about the time when you're like, all right, I'm ready to go to bed and like get ready for my big Saturday. That game could at least be entertaining. I'm going to watch.
Well, and obviously if TCU gets the win, they're 4-0. Arizona suffered that loss, but it wasn't in conference. So both of them are undefeated in conference play in terms of trying to fight for the Big 12. Classic Big 12, TCU at Arizona State. Classic.
It's gonna be. Look, we saw that Arizona State team, so we know that they got a quarterback that's interesting. We know that they've got that's got a chance to be a game that's played in the 30s. And I'll tell you this: won't be a lot of games tomorrow played in the 30s. So if you want just an old-fashioned, maybe some teams both score a bunch of points, and who the hell knows what happens in the fourth quarter, that might be the best game of the weekend. I don't know that that's what we're getting in the rest, because I really believe one of the stories on Monday will be offense around college football might kind of suck in a lot of places. The story of this season might be week in and week out who gets to somewhere between 20 and 24.
Yeah, you might be right.
Really been how we viewed the sport at the top for a while, right? Because you got to go back. There was a time you did that with Alabama a little bit, but then they got super. It's been a long time since we were like, Alabama doesn't even have a quarterback. Like, they went basically an entire decade where they had quarterbacks. And Georgia, kind of the same thing. They've had quarterbacks. I don't know. It's strange that at the very, very top, and in Clemson, kind of the same way, you never watched Clemson play and thought, look, Trevor Lawrence can get 17 on the board ball game. Because I don't know. Like, I'm impress me. I've seen people watch Texas, Chad, for fairly, I'm not saying unfairly, for a month with a little bit of you guys need to show me something and impress me.
A little bit.
All I'm saying is let's apply that to everybody else this weekend. I'm going to have a very snobby, y'all need to show me something this weekend. And you know what? Monday, it might be a who showed me something on Monday kind of day, because I don't feel like I've had a whole bunch of people show me stuff. I've been very critical of almost every positive thing I've seen this season. It's like, well, yeah, but let's see if we can eliminate that part this weekend. I'd love to be able to show up on Saturday and go, holy crap, Oregon's fun. Actually, I know they're good, because I still don't know a single team in college football, maybe beyond Ohio State, that I know is a national semifinalist kind of good team.
So tell me this, sight unseen, if Oregon wins 24-20, is that enough to impress you, or do you need to see it look a certain way?
No, the Penn State at home is a good team. They got really good top of the line players.
Okay.
But there's a style of football that I think Oregon might be able to create that I think can make Penn State very uncomfortable. But Penn State, look, they're as bona fide as Texas to some degree. Like, they also have been deep into the playoffs. They have played in big games. We could argue and debate whether or not they've won a big game yet, but they've certainly played in some. It feels like this game is a real referendum on Penn State. That if they lose this game, suddenly they have to worry about, well, you're just the same old Penn State. And all you guys came back You know who they are? They're 2009 Texas. And that was a fucking unfun season because every game felt like you were trying to like save the 2008 season's memory. So every game felt draining. It didn't help that they played in a 16-13 game against. It didn't help that the Nebraska Big 12 championship game was like a freaking root canal. Like the whole season could just never be fun. And when you bring back all those guys that Penn State has that didn't go pro, that said we're all in it for the team, and we're all coming back to win a championship, to come back. So I think there's more pressure in that game on them tomorrow. And at any point, it starts to feel like it's slipping away. The dawning that happens to Penn State is that it's not even the end of September and our dream just got revealed as a fraud. And look, they'll have a little bit of wiggle room, but it changes. If they win, it's the launching point for this is our dream season. We all came back. Look at where we're headed. But if you lose, it's like a 2,000-pound weight vest that gets strapped to them for the rest of the season, where it's about doubt. It's about you guys have never – think about what we would have done to Texas had they not had those Alabama wins and then won the Big 12 championship game, right? Because we said it about them forever. And you got to get one or two before you ever really, I think, have an earned benefit of the doubt. And Penn State doesn't have that yet. And they're the one team ranked in the top 10 right now besides Texas that if they get a black eye – I think the whole sport is ready to point at them and go, told you, fraud. That's tough, man. That is tough for a program to deal with when they think they've gotten beyond that point, which I think Penn State thinks they have. Lose tomorrow, and they're right back where they were with everybody thinking James Franklin can't get it done. That quarterback can't get it done. And all you dudes did was risk a season of injury before you get paid in the NFL because it was stupid to come back for this.
All right, Catch, before we wrap, you want to get any more picks out or you just want to finish up with Scottish Guy?
Scottish Guy.
All right, let's do it. Y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy all the games. We will finish up with the Scottish Guy, and then we will close out back on Monday at 12, reacting to Sark's SEC Week, Florida Week press conference. Y'all have a great weekend. See ya.
I looked across the room and saw you standing on the stair. And when I caught your eye, I saw you break into a grin. It feels so good, feeling good again. Well, I guess Texas is not out of this thing after all. Arch might just be a good QB, and booing an offense might actually work. Texas didn't shrivel up, they blossomed. Arch got going, which got Wingo going, which got number 0 going, and so on, and so on, and so on. I hate to say I told you so, so I'll sing it like Randy Travis. I told you so. Oh, I told you so. The defense was legendary, but everybody focused on Arch's struggles due to the opponents. Then Arch figured it out and looked awesome, but the critics will say it doesn't matter because of the opponent. This will all get figured out in time. Be patient, my little burnt orange kiddies. But that's not the only thing that got out of control this week. Based on the luck of the schedule and the lack of other good games, the Oklahoma hype train has busted out of the station, and it just may run you over. Attention, Mr. Mateer. Enjoy it while it lasts. Make your Johnny football jokes and take pics of the upgraded Heisman odds. In 2 weeks, your train runs into the burnt orange wall of reality in Dallas. The AP voters also lost it this week and put both the Sooners and the Aggies ahead of Arch and the Horns. Sark would like to thank you for the knee jerk and for giving his team something to focus on in the downtime. Everybody enjoy your little games this week and get those deck chairs on the Titanic rearranged. The Horns will sink you all in due time. UT62 by week 3. This is SGMOJO.